Kisoro, Problems and Peace. Distant and unknown. Kisoro is near the centre of Africa. It lies in Uganda, near the equator, but hundreds of miles from the sea. Isolated location. Kisoro is in the far southwest corner of Uganda, far from the capital Kampala. Kisoro borders onto Rwanda in the south and DR Congo to the west. It is cut off by mountains to the north, south and east, and has the international boundary with the DR Congo in the west, Rwanda in the south. Volcanoes, sleeping giants. Along the border with Rwanda to the south is a line of three magnificent dormant volcanoes: Muhavura, the largest, Gahinga and Sabyinyo. Sabinyo's peak is the junction of three countries: Uganda, Rwanda and DR Congo. These volcanoes are dormant at present, but their neighbours in the Congo are active. The three volcanoes is a plain where there are numerous small volcanic cones, indicating much volcanic activity close to the surface in the past. Living is difficult. Life for most local people depends on their small farms for growing food to eat and live. For shelter, many are using local materials of wood, grass and mud to build their own houses. With little money, you may be able to buy a tin roof. People are finding jobs and the local economy is slowly developing. Kisoro is the only town in the area. It is small because farming is difficult. Most of the families rely on their plots of land to provide vegetables, maize, beans, potatoes and yams to feed themselves. There are very few jobs and many at low skilled level. Survival is a struggle. Occasional droughts can bring much hardship. Generally, there is enough rain to provide vegetable growing and to provide water for people. In the mounds of soil that farmers make, they grow a variety of crops, some of which are called famine crops. In very dry seasons, yams do better than potatoes and beans do better than maize. So these are useful when there is a drought. Much of the ground is formed from lava flows that have cooled and hardened. These rocks are full of cracks and holes caused by gases in the lava flow and by cooling. Today, rainwater and streams disappear into this porous rock. In a few places where there is a dip in the rock surface, water springs out as a stream. These springs are few and far between. Much of the money a family earns goes on children's school fees and school books. The government pays the teachers, but the building and materials have to be bought by the local people. In most primary schools, there is no water and no electricity. A Ugandan friend of mine, Jason, set up a secondary school in Kisoro on the land his father left for him. It was a long struggle. Jason was determined to help the poorest children to have a secondary education, and this led to some friends in the United Kingdom sending funds for these children. It is even harder if you have a disability to live and to be educated in Kisoro. War and peace. Kisoro is a peaceful place, but the peace is broken sometimes from problems across the border in DR Congo. Here, rebel groups try to take control of diamond mines. Others attack villages for food and supplies. Sometimes roadblocks are put up to demand money and goods. When this happens, thousands of Congo families flee across the border into Kisoro. This happens every 2, 3 or 4 years. Special refugee camps are formed by the Uganda government to protect and to help the refugees. There is a permanent army camp stationed in Kisoro to deter the rebels from crossing the border. Gorillas in their midst. One of the valuable assets of Kisoro are the mountain gorillas, who inhabit the forests on the large volcanoes. But the gorillas are a threatened species. The spread of settlement and farming across Central Africa has stripped the area of its trees and destroyed the ecosystem that sustained the forest and its animals. In fact, most of the forest animals have disappeared. Mountain areas are more difficult to cultivate, and the forest survives here. These gorilla forests have been turned into national parks and conservation areas. The large volcanoes in Kisoro have become the Makahinga Gorilla Park. Tourists are attracted to visit these hills to see the gorillas and other animals. The Makahinga Gorilla Park has been established to protect the wildlife and the ecosystem and to allow tourism to develop. This tourism is an important economic bonus to Kisoro, both for the money spent but also for the jobs that tourism provides. A more recent threat to the mountain gorillas are the rebel groups. The forests provide a place to hide and live. The rebels have killed a number of wild animals for meat, including gorillas. When the rebels arrive, the national park wardens leave the forest unable to do their work. The gorillas and other animals are no longer protected. At the end of 2013, a rebel group surrendered in the mountain gorilla forest of South Kisoro. The rebels had been chased out of DR Congo by United Nations troops. One last problem for Kisoro is the isolation of its culture. The traditional culture of the local people is associated with the area across the large volcanoes in Rwanda. Kisoro was cut off from the cultural roots during the European grab for land, dividing this area between Germany, Belgium and Britain. Kisoro is on the edge in many ways, but the people are very welcoming and peaceful. They have a culture based on family life and relationships. Every rebel upsurge sends refugees because Kisoro, in spite of its problems, is a peaceful, welcoming place. Once a year, the Chile Children Project visits Kisoro from Rukungiri in order to help families with disabled and orphan children. Please help us with your prayers and donation.